Hi everyone, welcome to the Copper Wire podcast. I'm your host Mo, and I will be continuing with the theme from the last episode. It's about Epstein, and it's slightly more detailed. I got some feedback, and friends were saying focus on sort of what he's done as well. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to get straight into it. This guy, Jeffrey Epstein, I don't know how he got away with it for years. I mean, he moved with the highest powers that can be, highest circles of power, billionaires, presidents, royalty. But behind all of that wealth and influence, what is going on? It looks like there's been a massive criminal operation that's basically just exploiting vulnerable teenage girls. So I'm going to break down sort of like what he was accused of, touch on how he avoided justice for so long, what happened when, it finally caught up with him, and I'm going to speculate on that as well. So the core of his crimes, basically, the core, what everyone is focused on, is obviously the sexual abuse of minors, right? He's abused probably hundreds, but we only know a handful of them, right? Like, they've come forward and they were all underage. They were like 12, 13, 14, all the way to about 17. That's what he did. That's what he enjoyed. The filthy animal. So that's what he did. And he bought these girls. He got these girls, offered to pay them cash, and said that he wants quote unquote massages, right? So he's gone, got them on the island, and paid them and abused them, basically, right? Lured them in with cash. And these are girls from like underprivileged, poor background, unfortunately, society didn't care about these girls, right? They were lured by money, and they went on the island, got on the planes, wherever it was, and they ended up there. And obviously he did what he did, and we all know what he did, right? So he took them to his like Manhattan mansion. He's got his New Mexico ranch. He's got a private island, which obviously everyone knows about. He's got like some sort of religious building, mosque-like a place there. I'll touch on that later, which is quite disturbing, to be fair. You think someone like this, who is he worshipping? Anyway, and he's got his Palm Beach estate, and obviously many more places that we don't probably know about, right? We have to sift through these 3.5 million pages of evidence that has been released, heavily redacted. Pictures rightly so, and it's fine, it's good. At least we can get some kind of picture. It's more than what we got previously, and they've dumped us with all of this evidence, right? A key point for this is like, obviously this wasn't like isolated. This was like systemic pattern of exploitation of vulnerable teenage girls. Yeah. So obviously he's been caught. He was charged with sex trafficking charges in July 2019. And from what the prosecutors are saying, he was trafficking from at least 2002 to 2005, but this has gone on for a lot longer. We can only imagine how long this guy's been doing this for. He's been on the scene since the 1980s, right? He was a teacher at Dalton, taught billionaires' children. He was hired by Bernstein, however you pronounce it. And he's gone and done this, I would assume, for decades. Yeah? Victims were transported across state lines. He used employees and associates to schedule and facilitate the abuse as well. These are what the prosecutors have alleged that he's done, right? And if he was convicted, and he would have gone away for a long time, he would have died in prison, basically. 45 plus years minimum, right? He's done that, and to be fair, at least this time, they kept him in prison that time in 2019. 2008, like I mentioned in my previous episode, he got a sweet plea deal, basically. Yeah? He was allowed to work for 12 hours a day. He served 13 months in a county jail. The people, co-conspirators, they were not named. They were protected from any charges under this deal. And obviously this is heavily criticized. Like, how can someone being accused of abusing minors walk away with such a light sentence? You gotta ask yourself, who is this guy, right? What has he got on people that they are so afraid to keep him contained that they just let him go? They just let him go, like almost scot-free, yeah? And he carried on doing what he was doing. This was in 2008. He died in 2019. A month after he was arrested. Yeah. And obviously his death is, like I said before, dubious at best. At best, yeah. I personally don't believe he's died. I think they just relocated him, right? Because, security guards falling asleep, they didn't do the checks, his cellmate wasn't in his cell with him, cameras malfunctioned, he was already on suicide watch because, at that time he was fearing for his death, right? And he made that quite well known as well, that people knew that he was fearing for life. So he died, basically, right? After that, obviously, it raised a lot of questions. Like, this guy was very, very well connected. He had a lot of dirt on a lot of people, right? And when I'm saying that he's very well connected, right? So I'm going to pronounce this name carefully because I butchered it last time. Obviously, his number one direct criminal co-conspirator, yeah? There's two people, two women, as a matter of fact, that were facilitating this kind of disgusting behavior, right? They were facilitating it for Epstein and possibly numerous other people. We do not know, right? We don't know who they are. There are names that are being circulated, but we don't 100% know. So I'm just going to get on with it. So the name that I butchered last time was Ghislaine Maxwell. Yeah? Ghislaine Maxwell. Who was she? Yeah? So she was basically someone who liked to socialize with the rich and powerful. That's kind of all she was, right? She was a close associate of his, described as his like chief recruiter and facilitator. What a title. But what the hell was she doing? Yeah? She was convicted in the US of child sex trafficking, transporting minors with the intent to engage in criminal sexual activity and conspiracy. She's currently serving 20 years. And I hope those are 20 long, hard years after what she did to those poor girls. She's basically, she helped groom them, find them, recruit them, and she's potentially found like 100 victims for Epstein, the absolute animal. Maybe even more. These, like I said, these are just ones that we know about. Maybe they've come out. Maybe they're in the email trails or things like that. And some of the stuff in the email is disgusting. Like, they're discussing the ages of these poor girls, right? And you got back and forth from, like, some of them are well-known figures, like public figures, yeah. The second person is someone called Sarah Kellen. Yep. She is an unindicted co-conspirator in the 2008 federal agreement involving Epstein. She scheduled appointments, coordinated logistics for Epstein's victims, and she's described as being criminally responsible in Maxwell's sentencing documents. Right? So again, this woman is despicable, right? You can't make it up. She's gone and facilitated. It looks like there's two people facilitating this despicable behavior. Yeah, like recruitment and travel arrangements was kind of what she was doing. So another person is Jean-Luc Brunel. So he's a French modeling agent accused of procuring women for Epstein. He's also named as a co-conspirator within these documents. So there's three people, right? There's three people. The connections that he had, like wealthy business connections, like this is crazy, right? Leslie Wexner, I mentioned him before. He's the billionaire founder of L Brands. So that's like Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works. This guy is the founder of that. Epstein managed this guy's finances for years, and Wexner even gave him power of attorney over his estate, so he could manage, do whatever he wanted. And then he publicly severed ties with him in 2007. It's a bit suspicious that he did it in 2007, and the following year, Epstein got his plea deal. Maybe he just cut ties with him because he knew what was coming, right? And, to save image, save face, maybe he cut ties with him early, right? You don't know. These guys are mega, mega rich. Like I said before, this is money that you can't even dream about. Like, you couldn't imagine it, right? But this guy's cut ties with him in 2007, and he's got his plea deal. Epstein got his plea deal in 2008, right? So that's the first one. Then you have Glenn Dubin and Ava Anderson Dubin. Yeah. These two are hedge fund billionaires mentioned in civil allegations, and of course they denied any wrongdoing. Ava Anderson allegedly also dated Epstein in the 1980s. So, yeah. I mean, dated him, but records also show that Epstein had ED. If you know what that is, Maybe that's why she left him. I don't know, right? So, then another person, Jez Staley, former CEO of Barclays. Yeah. So records suggest that email correspondence with Epstein, and they socialized. So basically, this guy was emailing him back and forth, probably asked him, "Can I come on the island? Can I come on the island?" And Epstein was like, "Yeah, come." And that was it. So they socialized. Yeah. And another person of sort of wealth and rich individuals, Ariane de Rothschild. wealthy European banker reported to have negotiated business deals with Epstein's firm. So these are the rich connections that he had, yeah? And he also had other types of connections as well. So these are political and strategic ones, I'd say, yeah? So obviously we know Prince Andrew. He was basically interviewed by, I think, the BBC, and I will be honest, I have never ever seen someone sweat so much during an interview. This man was shining. I'm bald. I couldn't get my head to shine that much, and this guy was gleaming. Yeah. He was feeling the pressure at the time when he was being interviewed. He faced civil litigation alleging abuse, and he denied any wrongdoing, and the guy settled. Yeah, so that's done. He's done. Yeah. Then also another one is Steve Bannon, political strategist, who had like talks, correspondence with Epstein, even in 2018 and 19. So this is like later on in the game, yeah. Then you got Ehud Barak, former Israeli Prime Minister, and he had extensive reported interactions with this guy, with Epstein, and he traveled with him frequently. He frequently traveled with this guy. This is disgusting, right? I mean, you've got to know after a certain number of years, that what Epstein was doing. And if you knowingly mix with someone that you know is doing this kind of stuff, then sorry, but you're just as guilty. Yeah? And especially if you didn't report it or do anything about it. You just carried on, went like it was a merry-go-round and nothing was going on. Then you have Catherine Rumler. She was the former Goldman Sachs general counsel, and she actually apologized for association with Epstein. And obviously Peter Mandelson, the British politician who resigned, he left like last week. And rightly so, he should leave, right? This guy was jet-setting with the Epstein, yeah? He was jet-setting with this guy. Went to stay in his houses, residences, island, you name it, he's been there, and, you know, he's been chilling with this guy, right? Then more like, obviously, people that we'll know, obviously, Bill Clinton, yeah? Former president of the US, flew multiple times to this guy's house. And obviously he's denying everything. We let everyone else decide, and obviously when people go through the emails, they'll make their own decision as well, right? Then you've got Donald Trump, who's the current president of the US, yeah? You know, he's saying he knew him socially. You know, he's got a few pictures in the files that were released. And, you know, he's denying anything, of course. And he's saying that he later distanced himself from Jeffrey Epstein. Then we have Alan Dershowitz. He's a high-profile lawyer in the US. And a lot of people have probably seen interviews with this guy. And personally, in my opinion, this guy doesn't smell right. Yeah? I don't think he smells right. Because he denies it, and when you see him being asked about it, because I've seen it in the interviews that he's done on other shows, right? And his body language just tells you, like, he knows that his names are probably in these files, yeah? I've not had a look at them completely, but he's got connections with Epstein. I think this stinks to high hell, right? Until obviously it's proven, we can't say anything, and I wouldn't say anything. But my personal opinion is this is what I think is happening. He's got severe connections with this guy. And yeah, I've seen his interviews, his body language is just atrocious. Like, you can tell he's hiding something. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Like someone's closed up. You can tell someone's hiding something. So this guy, yeah. So then you have someone called Noam Chomsky. He's an academic. I think he's one of the four horsemen of atheism, I think. You got this guy, having dinner with him. Yeah. And there's email exchanges and things like that between Epstein and Noam Chomsky. Remember the names, yeah? So that's that, yeah? So you gotta think, right? What are his motives? Why did this guy do this? Yeah? So I think this guy's got so much money, right? He has so much money. He can do anything in the world. Why would he decide to do this, right? He's got that much money. He can get any woman, anything in the world that he wanted, right? But why did he do this? And I think, personally, this guy came from a not so remarkable background, right? Like I said in my previous episode, he wasn't particularly gifted academically, yeah? He wasn't super smart or anything like that. And I think that may have played like some kind of role in making him into what he became, yeah? Maybe when he was younger, he wasn't really like this, right? But then when he became mega rich, he realized that his money can give him what he wants, and his connections protected him from that, yeah? So I think what he liked was control. And he wanted to exploit people as well, yeah? Because those two are inextricably linked, I think, yeah? And the evidence shows it, right? What his motives were. He repeatedly sought out underage girls, and this ties also to sort of maybe his religious beliefs, right? I think it ties to it because, on the island, as I mentioned before, there's a structure, a building that's like used for worship, but as I mentioned, who are they worshipping there? And I think, he was worshipping some kind of devil, right? Like Baal or something like that, right? I think he was worshipping this devil, right? So, and also there were reports of human sacrifice, like sacrificing babies on this island for these rituals. And it's well documented. You can probably see it anywhere on, like, if you look on YouTube or Twitter or anywhere else like that. If you go and have a look at these things, you'll find like human sacrifices being made. And these are like disgusting. They'll drink the blood, they'll eat the flesh, they'll do disgusting things to these innocent, poor children, because a child is innocent, and what they're doing is on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're doing something so despicable to these innocent children, and they get off on it. Yeah, quite frankly, they get off on it. Yeah. And the other reason is which ties back to one of the other things that were found in the files that were released is this guy ended up with pieces of the kiswa. Now, the kiswa is the cloth that covers the Kaaba, and the Kaaba is important to Muslims. So he apparently obtained 3 pieces of the kiswa, yeah? And they were sent to him by what appears to be an Emirati businesswoman named Aziza Al-Ahmadi, yeah? This woman sold him 3 pieces of the kiswa. Now you got to think, why would this guy want something that Muslims around the world consider holy, right? Most Muslims in the world will probably never even get to see the Kaaba with their eyes, right? This guy had enough wealth and influence to go to this lady, and this lady, I can't believe she sold it to him, right? Like, I don't know what to say, right? She sold someone who has nothing to do with Islam or Muslims in general. She went and sold this guy 3 pieces of cloth from the kiswa, from the Kaaba, to someone who isn't even Muslim. Like, why would this guy be interested in it? You gotta think, right? I think it links back to the desecration and the defilement of like holy relics, right? And you gotta think, if these guys are like worshipping the devil or doing anything to get all this negative energy around them and make them feel good and make them feel pleasure out of this, right? This is probably what was going on. Yeah. They were desecrating, I think they were desecrating this cloth, this kiswa. I think they did unspeakable things with that cloth. That's what I think personally. Let me know what you think, of course. Like, let me know, right? I'm keen to hear your opinion. And these guys, it goes to say that these guys must have been also fairly like religious, right? Because why would they take some religious relic if they were religious themselves, right? Maybe on the opposite side. So you gotta think of it like that. They definitely believed in other entities, right? They must have. Yeah. So this is what he wanted. So just going back to my point, what were his motives, right? So exploitation, sexual exploitation, and control, right? They groomed them, he groomed them, manipulated them, coerced them, even asked the same girls that he was abusing to get other girls. It was like, what the hell, right? you know, I think he needed the dominance and control, like he liked that kind of thing. And over time, obviously, this escalated. The other thing that I think he did this for is it helped him build relationships with the super rich and the super powerful. Billionaires, politicians, academics, royalty, you name it, this guy knew them. Yeah? And he probably wanted some kind of validation. You gotta remember, this guy came from like an average background. Yeah? He had no like remarkable academic history. He wasn't, bright. But I gotta give him this. He must have been very charismatic. People must have loved this guy, right? No one's gonna trust you with their money, their, teaching their kids, right? If you weren't charismatic, and especially if you got into their inner circles with them. And I think he did that. He did what he did and facilitated all of this nonsense, all of this disgusting behavior to gain power and influence. And what he did was he documented it all, right? He documented all of this disgusting behavior, kept all the emails, everything. I think he did that. So one day, if anyone decided to do anything to him, he could release those files. And I think that's what's happened. And I think that's why he was, maybe he died, but I don't think he did. The situations to conspicuous, dubious, yeah. But they just removed him because they don't want that kind of information going out. And a lot of the files, like I said, they're redacted. You don't see who is it, yeah. Why? Release the files as they are. It makes sense. If anyone else did a crime, if someone from the UK, did anything like this, the name of the person, who he was in contact with, they would have been released without a shadow of a doubt, without any hesitation. They would have been released. So you gotta think, right? This power, this influence has helped whoever the names are under those black labels on the documents. Those names are like people, if they saw them, heard them, like will know who they are. And it would probably shock everyone. And this is why he documented it all, and he wanted this power and influence over these people, which is a mammoth task to do. And this guy did it. Yeah? I think they trusted this guy so much, so much. Who's going to hand over billions of your estate for this guy to manage? Like, you got to think this guy's got charisma, yeah? And he must have a way with people for them to trust him, facilitate this. To trust someone with this darker secret, they've got to be like very trustworthy looking, appearing, speaking. He must have done that. Like, wow, yeah. And he did it for strategic reputation building, and also having this sort of power influence also meant that he was protected, and he was for decades and decades he was protected. So he was running basically a blackmail operation at like elite level. Like you can't make this up, right? That's what he's done. And then he did it for his ego, his status. He created an image that he's like a philanthropist. He's a financial genius, which he probably is, right? Yeah, he probably is, because these guys trusted him with his money. So he's probably good at that, right? So why would he continue after being convicted? Why? You gotta think about it. It raises like three like big questions, right? Why did he do it? Even after he was convicted, charged, he got his plea deal in 2008. Why did he do it? It raises three questions in my mind. Did he believe that he was untouchable? I think the answer is yes. I think this guy knew all the way up until he got arrested or had suspicions that he was going to get arrested. I genuinely believe this guy thought that no one would find out. And he got exposed. Yeah? The things this guy did make a Diddy party look like it's a bloody walk in the park. Like, this guy makes Diddy look like nothing, yeah? Small talk. Like, this is disgusting what he did. Maybe he thought that, you know what, I got away with it once, I'll get away with it again. Like, he's got away with it. He literally got away scot-free. 13 months he was in a county jail. He was allowed to work up to 12 hours a day. Like, that's nothing for what this guy should have got and what he did get. So, yeah, I think that's obviously played a part, right? So, 100%. And obviously, the main thing, and one of the main things, his wealth Did his wealth insulate him from the consequences? 100% yes. 100% yes. There's no way someone gets away with things like this for so long. Yeah? No way. I mean, they found Bin Laden in a bloody cave in Pakistan. Yeah? If they can find him in a cave, and I don't believe they did, by the way, I'm just giving you an example, right? I don't believe they found Bin Laden and then just threw his body into the sea. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. Just like this guy's death. It doesn't really add up, right? But if they're telling us that they can find Bin Laden in a cave somewhere in like Pakistan, 100%, yeah, 100%. Like, come on. You've got to be kidding me, right? He did not feel constrained. Not by this. You know, and the main takeaway from all of this is this guy, his primary motive was long-term exploitation of minors. He wanted to gain wealth, influence, and power. He wanted to keep his connections. And he wanted evidence. And obviously there's 3.5 million files of evidence, right? And he's got it. And some of it's come out. And like I said, this is only stuff that we know. It's come out. And now, obviously, he felt everyone's feeling it because a lot of names are on there. Like Elon Musk's name's on there. Like, you know, this guy, he's a billionaire. He owns bloody Twitter, right? X, shall I call it? Formerly Twitter. What a twat. And you've got to think, like, how do they get away with it? How does he get away with it? And the bottom line is it's power. It's money, connections, power. These are the things that he had to get away with it all. Yeah? And just going to touch back on sort of the kiswa that he got, right? The cloth of the Kaaba. How did this guy get it? Like, why did he get it? And as I mentioned before, these guys, I think, on the island, they are like devil worshippers, man. They've got to be, yeah? They've got to be doing some nasty, horrible things on the island. I mean, Jay-Z was on the island. You've got pictures of Chris Tucker in the Epstein files. Like, he knew, like, Hollywood A-listers. He knew billionaires. He knew politicians. He knew royalty. He had so much dirt on a lot of people. I'm not saying these ones that I just named, but he had dirt on a lot of people. And I think that's why they put him in a cell and they got rid of him. And once they got rid of him, I think they just moved him. I don't think he died. Yeah? I don't think he died. So, in conclusion, this guy knew a hell of a lot of people. He did this for decades. I don't believe that it's just from like 2002 to 2005 or 8. It's a hell of a lot longer than that. With all this technology, he should have been caught a lot longer. I mean, I can't be 5 minutes late without my manager giving me a call saying, "Where are you?" And that's when he's working from home, right? And you're telling me this guy trafficked hundreds of innocent girls, minors, and didn't get caught for decades. No one knew. No chance. No chance. I'm going to leave it there for you guys. Tell me what you guys think. What's your opinion on what's happened, what's going on, things that are coming out with this, with all the files, all the Epstein files. Let me know. This guy's got links like crypto, like Satoshi Nakamoto. You know, like he's got links with him, like he knew like when it was being founded, when it was being made. Like this is all in the files, and you gotta think this guy's well connected. He knows people. What has he got on people? What did he have on people? What do you think? Yeah? Tell me what you guys think. If you like this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe on my YouTube channel, on my TikTok channel, and on Spotify, all under the Copper Wire podcast name. That's the channel name. So if you like it, please like and subscribe, leave comments, tell me what you want me to speak about. I will gladly go out and do the research and come back to you with what I think is going on, what is happening on any topic that you want me to speak about. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.